Hey guys, welcome back to Professional Weekenders YouTube channel. Today we're here at home and we got back from our Alaska cruise a few months ago and we wanted to give you some additional tips about it. So stick around, check it out, hit that subscribe button, and let's go.
Let's go. Alright guys, this is going to be a list of the 10 things we wish we would have known prior to getting on our Alaskan cruise. So make sure you're subscribed and link below to our playlist of our Alaskan cruise. We were there in October of 2023.
Make sure you check out those videos. Those were really great. We had a lot of fun. Cover a lot of different tips, even more than what we're going to cover here. But this is kind of a highlight overview so you can get a real quick idea of what you need to know before you go on your Alaskan cruise.
Yeah.
Alright guys, so number 10 on our list is Glacier Bay.
I love Glacier Bay. Can I just say, it was like my favorite thing. Well, maybe not my favorite thing, but top 5 favorite things on the whole trip.
Yeah, absolutely. Glacier Bay is a must-see location in Alaska. If you're booking any kind of Alaskan cruise, I highly recommend you book one that stops at Glacier Bay. Definitely the most spectacular, stunning views of the entire trip. And I think if you book a trip that doesn't stop at Glacier Bay, you're doing yourself a disservice. So make sure that is on your list of must-see, must-visit locations. Absolutely.
Now, full disclosure, we've only been on one Alaskan cruise, right? So so maybe there's other parts of Alaska that are also just as beautiful from the cruise perspective. But Glacier Bay was top tier because we saw seals. There was this little seal buddy just living his best life on an ice float as we're watching the glacier crack off from itself. And then on the way out, we saw sea otters, which was really cute. They're just little guys just floating on their backs, holding hands.
Yeah, and it was really cool too. The cruise ship stopped before we entered Glacier Bay and we picked up one of the National Park Service park rangers.
Really cool.
They came on board, they gave a little speech about the Glacier Bay, about the history, about the wildlife. They had some exhibits as well as a little gift shop that Christine really enjoyed.
I found a magnet.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it's one of the least visited national parks in the United States.
Yeah.
So if you want to be top tier elite and go visit all the national parks, make sure you stop there.
Yeah, I don't know if you can get to Glacier Bay other than by boat. I don't know if you can.
Yeah,
there's
pretty much.
Yeah, I don't think you can hike into it. I mean, I don't know. You probably could. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So. But yeah, Glacier Bay, top tier.
Number 2 is when you're looking to book your Alaska cruise, there are typically 2 routes that most people look at. Number 1 is the Inside Passage. This is your shorter, typically about a week-long itinerary, leaving from Seattle or Vancouver, and it's going to go up to the Juneau, Ketchikan, Skagway, Glacier Bay area, and then kind of sail back. So all this is happening in the panhandle of Alaska, and you're not really getting to the heart of what you would typically think of with Alaska.
And that's the cruise that we took. That was our itinerary. So we started in Seattle. We went up to Juneau first, then Skagway, then Ketchikan, and then we did a quick couple hours in British Columbia, Vancouver. We didn't film that because it was just a nighttime thing. But yeah, then we were back to Seattle. Yeah,
and it is really nice. There are a couple pros to this, that it's a shorter itinerary. It's only about a week long.
A little bit more affordable.
Okay, you do leave and come back to the same port, so you can do a round trip airfare out of either Vancouver or Seattle, wherever you're disembarking. And it tends to be a little bit more affordable as well. The other option for your itinerary is the Cross Gulf of Alaska cruise. So this is the type of cruise that's typically going to be a one-way cruise, either heading north or going south. So you either pick this up in Anchorage and go down to Seattle, Vancouver, or you pick it up in Seattle, Vancouver, and head up towards the Anchorage area. So this is going to be a little bit of a longer itinerary. And you get to see a little bit more of Alaska because you're going to be farther north than you would on the Inside Passage cruise. Also, a lot of people tend to add a land-based part of their excursion with this, where you could take a train from the Anchorage area up to Denali National Park and Fairbanks and fly in and out of there too. So that would be awesome. Really cool.
Yeah, that's on the bucket list, don't worry.
Yeah. The downsides with this one is it does cost significantly more.
Yeah.
So think about that when you're looking to book your cruise. Next on our list is shoulder season is cheaper for a reason.
Yeah.
So we decided to go in October, which is the very, very end of the season.
Yeah.
There was one more week of cruising after us, and that was it. They were done. So you can either go early in the season or late in the season and still get roughly the same sort of benefits, in that it's going to be much more affordable. We paid roughly around, all in, we were about $5,000 total, airfare, everything to get on this cruise. That includes a balcony cabin for a week. However, if we had gone during peak months, we're probably looking at
double that,
close to double that.
At least, yeah.
Our dream Alaska vacation would have been taking that cross Gulf of Alaska with that trip up to Fairbanks, and we were looking at probably about 10 grand just for us to make that trip, and that doesn't include excursions. We did all of our excursions, all of our flights, everything for less than $5 by going in the shoulder season.
Yeah, so it's kind of worth it if you want to see if Alaska is a place you want to vacation again. Even though we were there in like the last week of the season, I still found it to be really charming, beautiful. All those things that you hear about whenever you think of Alaska, it was just for half the price, right? So knowing that, would I go back and spend double the money to do a little bit more? Probably.
Yeah. So we did save a ton of money on things like sales. We went to the Alaska T-shirt company, which is a must stop in June.
I blacked out in the story, y'all.
Everything was like 80% off, and we ended up with a ton of T-shirts and swag and everything. So that was all really good. A lot of things were on sale, season-ending sale, clearing out the shelves. Yeah. However, the flip side of that is a lot of things weren't open. A lot of things weren't available. For instance, one of Christine's major things that she wanted to do was do a sled dog. Yeah,
dog sledding. Yeah, and hang out with the puppies, with the Malamutes and the Huskies.
Yeah, but when you go in October, there's not enough snow for it, and all of that is closed. There weren't any options to do any of the helicopter tours to the glaciers.
Because there wasn't enough ice, they said.
Yeah, and even in Juneau, what was the big glacier there?
Mendenhall.
Yeah, so even in Juneau, the Mendenhall Glacier, too, we couldn't even buy tickets to go see that because they'd already sold all their tickets. Apparently, they get a voucher, voucher, like a number of tickets that the National Park Service sells each year, and by the time October came, they were just out. So even though we were trying to book our tickets months in advance, they wouldn't sell them to us because they'd already promised them all for earlier in the year.
Yeah, so pro tip, if Mendenhall Glacier is something you absolutely want to see, do not go at the end of the season because chances are you will not, there's not going to be any vouchers or passes left.
But you can still see it from the road.
You can, and we'll put that clip in here where we could see it as we're driving past, and then we kind of caught it as the fog rolled in.
We waved. Yeah, we saw it. Yeah, check that off the list.
Yeah. Liberty, you did not see it, so don't bark.
She's mad she didn't get to go.
Could you imagine her in Alaska?
And next up on our list is it is expensive. Now we've already kind of covered this a bit, talking about $5,000, $10,000. I think no matter how you slice it, an Alaskan cruise is going to be pricey. It's going to be much more expensive than if you were to go to the Caribbean. You can definitely make your money go a lot further on a Caribbean cruise. There's plenty of competition. There's plenty of different places to go see. You're in places where the cost of goods and services aren't nearly as high. Yeah,
there's multiple cruise ports in Florida. I mean, not that you need to fly or to cruise out of Florida to go to the Caribbean, but I mean, you've got Tampa, all of them are in there. So plenty of options to choose from.
Right, and in Alaska, just the options are more limited, and things just tend to cost more. So definitely make sure that you save your pennies. I'd say pick a budget and stick to it because it's really easy to overspend on one of these cruises. Next up on our list is the weather. So
I was a little bit surprised with the weather, honestly.
I was too. You think of Alaska, you think it's going to be freezing cold.
In October of all times.
In October, right. I thought for sure it was going to be snow and ice and all this. But honestly, you're in the panhandle of Alaska. It's really practically, it's almost Canada, right? It's not you're not talking about Fairbanks. You're not talking about
Anchorage.
Anchorage or Nome. It's not that bad. It's not that cold, anyways. It's definitely wet. It rained the entire time that we were there, and that's what we've heard from other people that have gone, is that it tends to rain pretty much constantly. So make sure that you dress in layers, probably light layers, something that is rainproof, waterproof. That's definitely going to make your trip a lot more enjoyable.
I think the weather adds to like the ambiance, right? It adds to like the whole vibe of like Alaska, because we were standing in Skagway. You looked one way, it was sunshine. You looked one way, you could see a glacier. You looked behind you, it was rain. And then on the other side, it was like, foggy.
And a rainbow.
And rainbow. I mean, it was just like
everything.
No matter where you look, there's something to see. So
absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Next up is, if you are looking to save some money, you may be considering an interior cabin, but I can tell you that's not the way to go. If this is your one and only trip or your first trip to Alaska, I can't highly recommend enough. Get a balcony cabin, save the extra money. If that means cutting back on maybe an excursion or flying Spirit instead of flying Delta, however you got to do it, save those pennies and get your balcony cabin, because there is something to see all the time, and you're definitely going to want to be out there on your balcony taking full advantage of every moment that you have in Alaska.
Yeah, so when we were in Glacier Bay, of course, we ran out to the top deck and ran to the front of the deck, but it was something really cool just to be able to look out your balcony and be able to, and that's where we saw the majority of the sea otters, was from our balcony as we're going through Glacier Bay. And let me just say this. This is the guy who wants a value, right? So as far as he's concerned, the interior cabin is just as good, honestly, probably even better, because of the price. So for him to say that, no, splurge on the balcony, that's saying something.
That is very true. I fly coach, and I like the interior cabins on our cruise ships.
Yeah.
Well, I want to make my dollar stretch as far as possible, but I can tell you that, Alaska for many people is a bucket list item. It's worth spending the extra money there.
Yeah. Now, if something happens and you can't necessarily swing the balcony cabin, I will say we cruise on Norwegian Cruise Lines on the Bliss. And for us, there was plenty of inside space where you could still see everything through the window, right? So if you can, splurge for the balcony, but if not, don't think you're not going to enjoy yourself, because there are plenty of inside, outside spaces where you can see the world go by.
Right. Even in Glacier Bay, they did open up the bow of the ship, which is typically just reserved for the Haven guests, but they allowed everyone out there to get those spectacular views. And that was a really neat place to see the glaciers too. Marjorie Glacier, we got real close to that, so that was cool.
Speaking of the balcony thing, this is not something we have on the list. My recommendation, though, is typically whenever you think of like a balcony cabin, you want to be up really high and you want to be able to see all things. I think for Alaska, I might recommend doing a balcony cabin that's on a lower level. Yeah. Because I think we could have been closer to the water to see the animals.
That's a good
point.
point. Yeah, because there's lots of whales and seals and stuff. Yeah.
So if you're up high, you're going to be able to see farther, but if you're down lower, you're going to be able to see better.
Yeah. Well, and you're going to get less motion sickness too. It is a bit of a rough ride.
Yeah, I will say this is the only cruise that I really felt kind of nauseous on for like a hot second.
They got those sick bags out 2 days.
Yeah, 2 days. I didn't need a sick bag, but I definitely needed some Dramamine.
Next up on the list is, if you want to save some money, you can book third-party excursions through either Viator or TripAdvisor. We'll put a link to the description below to some of the trips that we booked. You can check those out. But you can oftentimes save about half price of what it would be booking with the cruise ship.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. And also, another tip for saving money is, like we talked about, going shoulder season. The amount of sales that we picked up from souvenirs and everything, we spent far less on souvenirs than I thought we were going to, just because you typically think Alaska is going to be expensive, and it is. But by booking in the shoulder season, we were able to save some money there too on our souvenirs.
Yeah, so just fun fact with a third party. Now, obviously, if you book with the cruise line, sometimes the cruise lines will do a deal, right? So, for example, when we cruised, one of the free at sea options for us was a $50 credit per excursion per port. So, for example, it was $50 for us to take for one person to go up to the tram, the green gold rush tram, the thing that you do in Juneau with like the big like gondola thing that goes up to the top of the mountain. In Juneau, it was $50 a person. So, because of our deal, I was able to get mine for free, and we had to pay for Lewis's. Now, something about not booking with the cruise line is that you're not always guaranteed to be back. So if you book through the cruise line and something happens and you get stuck on your excursion, the boat supposedly will not leave you stuck in port. They don't necessarily guarantee that for something you book through Viator or TripAdvisor. But if you time it just right, sometimes it's a bit more affordable, and you still get back in plenty of time. Like, we've never had an issue, and we booked third party quite a bit. Yeah,
I'd say just pay attention to your times. Make sure that you're aware of what ship time is, and don't book a tour that's going to cut it too close. Make sure you give yourself some extra time for sure.
Now, I will say one thing that did disappoint me about this cruise specifically is they advertised they advertised times for us to be in port. Hi, Liberty, I see you. But I feel like every single port, our time was condensed, right? So say, for example, we had to be back on the boat by 6 o'clock, but our itinerary said when we booked, it was actually, you had to be back on site by 4. So because of that, whenever we were in Ketchikan, Ward's Cove, we weren't actually able to get to downtown Ketchikan because of that reason.
We'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
Well, next on the list is what to pack.
Everything.
Nice thing about cruising is you can bring a lot of
Everything.
luggage. Yeah. Especially provided if you're not flying. Obviously, if you're going to fly, you're kind of limited to what you can bring on the planes. But definitely, we talked about bringing some layers, making sure that you have light layers that are rainproof. Some other items that you might find that you want is a dry bag to make sure that everything stays dry, especially if you have any kind of camera equipment or any electronics that you don't want to get ruined. And also make sure that you bring some binoculars, because I had a fun time sitting out on the balcony, being on bear watch the entire cruise. Never found a bear.
We saw a ton of whale spouts, though.
Yeah, saw a bunch of whale spouts. And you're just always looking for something, and so definitely having those binoculars helps you, feel like you're a little bit more up close and personal with them.
Yeah, I definitely recommend. Even though it's not cold, the humidity makes it much more colder, right? So even if you're warm-blooded like myself, I brought a hat, I brought gloves, I brought a scarf, just in case. So bring a jacket with pockets, and then if you don't need it, shove it in your pockets. But layers was definitely the way to go.
Yeah, so next up on our list is an interesting tidbit about cruising from America, is that your ship will stop in a foreign port, and when you go to Alaska, that's going to be Canada.
You're not going to cruise to Japan or Russia.
Very true. Yeah, so that means that even if you leave from Seattle, you will find that your ship's going to stop in Canada. On our particular cruise ship, is a little bit interesting because we went from Seattle, we went to Juneau, Skagway, Ketchikan, Glacier Bay, and then we sailed all the way back, and we stopped in Victoria, British Columbia, in the middle of the night
for 4 hours.
For 3 hours.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was
3 hours.
We got there at like 8 o'clock. We had to be back on the boat by like 11.
It wasn't even that. It was. I think it was like.
Maybe it was like 9 to midnight or something.
It was 9 to midnight. So it's dark. There's not a whole lot going on there.
We literally walked around in the dark.
But this is just an interesting, regulation. It's a law here in the U.S. Basically, that if a cruise ship is going to operate within U.S. waters and ferry U.S. passengers, then it has to be flagged in the U.S., meaning it has to be built in the U.S., which the U.S. just doesn't build cruise ships.
No.
All cruise ships are built somewhere else. And it also has to be staffed by U.S.
laws.
Right, and it also would have to follow by U.S. labor regulations. So in order to get around that, most cruise ships, you see a lot of them, like the one that we sailed on, the Norwegian Bliss, is flagged out of Nassau, Bahamas, which is really typical. So it's a Norwegian cruise ship carrying American passengers from Nassau. So just because of that regulation, they have this weird loophole that they have to go through. And don't get me wrong, Victoria was a beautiful city.
I would get back.
Loved it. But I would have liked to have spent more time there. Would have liked to have seen it during the daytime.
Right. Because we didn't even book an excursion. We just got off the ship and walked around.
Right. It's very obvious that the point of the itinerary that we chose was to go to Alaska, to go to Juneau, Skagway, Ketchikan. And they just, they have to tag somewhere in Canada on there just to make those regulations. And you can see that, this was just an afterthought or just to comply. It's unfortunate because I would have liked to have stayed in Victoria more, but I knew it threw a lot of people on the cruise ship off. A lot of people were asking, well, why are we doing this? Why are we stopping there? And you know me, I got to make friends, and I enjoy talking about this topic with everybody.
Stranger, y'all. I think the one exception to this is the Norwegian cruise Spirit of America that's in Hawaii, but that one is like astronomically more expensive because they can't. It's not as affordable to cruise to Mexico to Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
So that one's pretty expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So most Hawaiian cruises, they leave out of Los Angeles. They'll stop in like Tijuana and then go over to Hawaii. Yeah. But the Spirit of America is the only one that you can pick up in Hawaii and stay in Hawaii.
So comment down below if you've ever been on that cruise and if it was something that you would want to do again, because I've never been to Hawaii. I want to go.
It's on the list. All right, and our final tip, things that we wish we would have known before going to Alaska, is that your cruise ship may not actually stop in the towns that they say they're going to stop in.
I know. Can I just say, I do a lot of research whenever we book a trip because I want to make sure we're obviously bringing you guys great content, but I want to make sure it's stuff that we're going to enjoy. This was my biggest pet peeve. Like, it really kind of grinded my gears a little bit about, especially whenever we got to Ward's Corner. It said, so it was Ketchikan, but you're docking in Ward's Corner. So that Ward's Corner, I guess, is where Norwegian Cruise Lines has their dock, right? But it's like 5 or 6 miles from
like 10 miles.
Oh yeah, so it was like a 30-minute bus ride to downtown Ketchikan. Right. And because they pulled back our time, after we did our sea kayaking, we weren't able to get on the bus to go actually see downtown Ketchikan.
Yeah, we had plans that on this one that we were going to do an excursion when we first got off, and we're going to quickly go sea kayaking, and then we're going to come back, and then we're going to go explore downtown Ketchikan, because Ketchikan is probably the most beautiful, picturesque.
Lewis was so excited about it, and we couldn't make it.
Really wanted to see that river walk. I thought that was going to be really neat. But yeah, shame on us. We didn't read the fine print on this one, and I think Norwegian is the only one that docks at Ward's Corner. But be aware Ward's Cove. Ward's
Corner is in Mason, is in Ohio.
Yeah, so I think Norwegian is the only one that docks at Ward's Cove. So if you're cruising with another cruise ship, you are likely to actually be in downtown Ketchikan and probably have a chance to see that. But for us, we did not have time to make it to Ketchikan after our sea kayaking.
Yeah, it was a bummer.
Yeah, and then that was also kind of interesting too with Skagway. Although we were in Skagway, we still had to take a bus to and from the ship. We weren't able just to get off the ship and walk.
Yeah.
So a lot of these towns are rather small, and there's only so many places for the cruise ships, and you're either going to be on a bus or maybe even not in the town at all.
Yeah, so just be mindful of that whenever you're booking things, because we were able to book 2 excursions in Juneau. We did an extended excursion in Skagway, right? And then we thought, oh well, there's plenty of time for us to be able to see downtown Ketchikan. So it's kind of like a bummer.
All right, guys, so that's our list of the 10 things that you need to know before booking your Alaskan cruise. Let us know in the comments below if you have any other tips. We'd love to hear about it. Yeah. And make sure you go back and check out those videos that we did on Alaska, because they are top tier, top notch. And we really enjoy them. I think that you will too. Yeah. So we appreciate you hanging out with us. It was really fun. Yeah. And that's going to do it for us today, guys. And with that being said, we're out here, and we'll see you next weekend.
Bye.
10 things that you need to know before booking your Alaskan cruise. And if we tried to crank the air conditioner to get the house to 60 degrees,
oh my God,
like $10,000.
It would not be $10,000. I'll never financially recover from this.
See that we're already recording.
Yeah. What was I supposed to do? Not press record?
Just, are you ready?
Yeah. All right, listen, if you're going to be in here, you got to be quiet.
We're going.
Well, do you want to say number 10? Do you want to count down to number 1?
Okay.
So,
I didn't put them in any order.
Oh. Just kidding. We were just shooting from the hip, I guess, today.
Don't we always? I feel like the best ones are probably up front, but I also don't want to bury the lead.
Look at you, known terms. Number 4 will shock you.
Yeah. Tip number 3. Did we start with 10 or?
I don't know. You're tracking this, dude. I'm just here for effect.
We'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
That's coming up. That's the next one, in fact.
Oh. You pay me later for that.
All right, guys. Today we're going over the top 10 things you must know.
No, absolutely not. That fake excitement, it's cringeworthy. No, thank you. All right, take 4.